Evet, başlatıyoruz panelimizi. Hemen davet edeceğim. Bu panel bir ticaret ve sağlık hizmetleri ortağı olarak Birleşik Krallık başlığını taşıyor. Konuşmacılarımız Birleşik Krallık'la gelecekte ticaret olanaklarını anlatacak olan bize Sayın Kenan Poreo, kendisi Başkonsolos, Birleşik Krallık, Doğu Avrupa ve Orta Asya Ticaret Komisyonları, kendisini davet edelim. Ve diğer konuşmacımız NHS İnovasyon Ekosistemini Profesör Doktor Tony Young anlatacak. NHS England ve NHS İyileştirme Ofisi Ulusal İnovasyon Klinik Lideri kendisi. Zoom üzerinden bağlanacağız kendisine. Birleşik Krallık'ta Genomik Sağlık Hizmetleri Sistemini de Mark Bale anlatacak. Sağlık ve Sosyal Hizmetler Bakanlığı Genome Bilimi Politikası Müdür Yardımcısı. Birleşik Krallık İhracat Finansman Kurumu'nu Sayın Özgür Kutay anlatacaklar. Türkiye, Doğu Avrupa ve Orta Asya Ülke Başkanı. Konuşmacılarımızı alabiliriz. Buyurun. Buyurun. Okay.
Sorry.
Buyurun. Tamam. Önce Kenan Poreo sunumunu yapacak. Birleşik Krallık'la gelecekte ticaret olanaklarını anlatacak kendisi. Başkonsolos, Birleşik Krallık, Doğu Avrupa ve Orta Asya Ticaret Komisyonu. Buyurun.
Günaydın. That went very smoothly. It's a real honor to be here today. Minister Tolunay, Minister Birinci, Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to start by thanking the Turkish government, the ministers, and all of their support for this really important event, delivered at a really difficult time. As you all know, it was 2 years, more or less, in the making because of the pandemic, which we're still contending with. So I'd like to once again underline my thanks for the Turkish government and all colleagues who've supported it. And also, it's great to see so many companies, government officials, innovators coming over from the UK to meet face-to-face with Turkish government officials, businesses, innovators and academics. Because I think we all have lived this life where we've been doing these meetings on Teams and on Zoom, but there's nothing quite like getting together in a room and speaking to people face-to-face to build trust, to build a relationship, even if we're all wearing these masks. So I'm going to kick off very quickly with my presentation, and this will go wrong because I'm very, very bad with clickers, so I apologize. Yep, there you go. True to form. I'm just pointing it in the ether. I'll point it anywhere where it can work. Özür dilerim, çalışmıyor. Çalıştı. So, first of all, why should you choose collaborating with the UK? Well, I mean, as you will have heard from earlier on today from our ambassador, the UK is a global centre for research and development with a great track record of scientific breakthroughs, including the AstraZeneca-Oxford vaccine against COVID. As the UK government, we have continuously dedicated funds and support for innovative ideas for the life sciences sector, and we're really keen to preserve partnerships among all stakeholders, like academics, innovators, the industry. I think what's really important to underline is we've spoken about the USP that we have with the National Health Service in terms of the customer base that we have and the patient base that we have. With that, more than 500 million patient interactives each year, we're continuing to seek the best, most innovative, most effective services for our population to improve health outcomes. So, next slide. Oh, no, that went wrong. Bear with me. So we have announced a new strategy for life sciences sector in the UK, which employs more than 250,000 people, 250,000 people, and generating around £80 billion worth of turnover each year. So it's a huge underpinning sector for us. And we are focused on dedicated support for that sector to grow, to internationalize further, attracting investment and creating high-skilled jobs that will benefit not just the UK, but global health outcomes. I don't know if that was me or not. I'm really sorry. It could very well have been. Let's just give this to somebody who's much more tech. There you go. Is that gone? I'm going to kick off on the slide 4, which hopefully somebody will miraculously put up, because I'm... Is it? Ha! Right, so here are a few reasons why the UK can be a great partner in healthcare, not necessarily the best partner when it comes to delivering technology PowerPoint presentations. But back to healthcare, I'm going to give kind of 5 solid reasons as to why you should continue to explore those relationships with the partners that are here today from the UK. So the UK easily connects with researchers, with supply chains, and innovation networks and customers, and provides a really solid ecosystem to do that. We've got a globally competitive business and regulatory environment, providing that stability that all businesses and consumers and customers want. The UK offers industry access to world-class talent, many of whom are here today. I'm really conscious that many of you have also studied in the UK as well as started to grow your business there already. And we have unique data and innovation infrastructure. The NHS has expert clinical, translational and research partner and is to work with and to support global evidence development. And we have a comprehensive innovation ecosystem underpinned by a long-term life science industrial strategy agreed between government and industry and business. So you have that joint credibility and that joint vision for its future growth. Next slide. I'm really hopeful this will work. Yeah. So Turkey is a very important partner for the UK, and our trade volume of over £16 billion per year shows powerful collaboration between our two countries. Total UK exports to Turkey amounted to £16.2 billion, and total UK imports to Turkey were £10.4 billion in the last 4 quarters. As the ambassador said in his speech earlier on today, we've had to contend with the pandemic, and we are looking to grow and strengthen that partnership even further. The UK, as was said earlier on today as well, is the second biggest market for Turkey's exports in goods and services, and our dedication for partnership can also be seen at major UK investments in Turkey, like AstraZeneca, GSK and Bupa. I'm excited many colleagues are here today from those organisations. I think it's also worth saying that that partnership is not just limited to the healthcare sector, albeit a fundamentally important one. You can see from this super colourful slide that we have UK investors very active in a wide range of sectors in Turkey. So, yeah. If you would like to hear more about business opportunities you can benefit from with the UK, and it was great to very briefly speak to some of you as I was running in between meetings and now, you can connect with our colleagues here, my team here in Turkey. We have colleagues here from our offices in Ankara, Istanbul and Izmir, but also we have colleagues from the UK as well, who are all here to support from the government government side, who are all here to support you, connect and understand better the opportunities to collaborate and how you can innovate further with UK partners. Before I end, can I just ask my colleagues from DIT Turkey team and colleagues from the UK government side just to stand up, raise your hands and wave so people know who you are. There you go, marvellous colleagues there. I have to thank them all for helping to make this happen. Don't often thank them enough, but that's the end of my very short presentation, but thank you very much for that. I'm excited to see you all here. I'll be here for the whole day, and hopefully now we'll pass you over to people who will be able to manage this new, novel piece of innovation much better than I could. But çok teşekkürler ederim.
So good morning. I hope you can all hear me, and I hope this bit of technology does go well. I should say günaydın. I hope I've said that correctly. I am so sorry that I couldn't fly into Turkey. I was all set to come, and in fact, one of my clinical entrepreneurs, I will tell you about that, called Ali, is sitting in the front row, and he's the only one from my team who came over. So I hope you'll make him feel very welcome, because he's all on his own out there. He's a neurosurgeon with a great innovative startup. So look, first of all, my name is Tony Young. I am a practicing consultant surgeon in the National Health Service. I am a medical director across Mid and South Essex, the third largest hospital group in our country. I'm the chair and director of medical innovation and entrepreneurship at Anglo Ruskin University, and I'm also the national clinical lead for innovation for the health service in England. So our nation has taken a clinician and put them in a leadership role for a whole nation's healthcare innovation. So some people say you must have the most difficult job in the world. The NHS is a supertanker. We see 1 million patients a day. We have £140 billion of budget to spend each year, over 7,000 general practices. It's enormous. And people say, well, how can you turn around a supertanker like that? But I would say, if you want to innovate at scale on the planet, the NHS is the place to do it. Why don't you come and work with us? And I'm going to tell you a little about what we do and how good that is. But first of all, people get quite confused about what innovation is, I think. And it's taken a little while for me to truly work it out. And I think there are 4 key components to innovation. Number 1 is it has to be novel. Number 2, it has to add value. That could be in terms of improved cost efficiencies or patient outcomes. It has to be scalable and have scalability across the system. And lastly, it must empower. It must empower the users, empower the workforce in healthcare, empower the patients and their carers. And if you bring all those elements together, then my experience is you really have an innovation. So we are doing a whole lot of things in the NHS. We are the world's largest unified healthcare system. So we are bringing forward an innovation infrastructure and an ecosystem. Now you will hear from some of my colleagues about different ways we support our life science industry, but our academic health science networks, 15 regional organizations across our nation that are your front door for innovation. You just have to come knocking, and their job is to help you find the right clinical expertise, the right place to try and test and trial what you're doing. We have a whole range of business support, such as our SBRI healthcare program. This year, I've just grown that to £26 million of funding going direct to companies to help them test and trial their innovative ideas in the National Health Service. We have a National Innovation Accelerator, so for proven ideas that need to scale, we can support you through that. And just launching our first pilot phase, and I think this is the first time I'm announcing it, NHS test and evaluation sites. We've brought together 11 partners across the NHS in our first evaluation phase of this, covering a population of 15 million people, and you will have one set of pathways to go through. One business case that you have to fill in, one set of research and ethics forms, one set of policies and procedures. So instead of having to go to every different hospital or unit and fill in new forms and go through new processes, it's just one front door. And if that works, our plan in a year's time is to expand that across the whole NHS. So we will truly become the most joined up research and innovation health system in the world. So we do all those things, but I have something else I'm a little bit well known for in the United Kingdom, and that's called our Clinical Entrepreneur Program. So we always supported our doctors and nurses and other clinicians if they wanted to be leaders or researchers or academics or teachers. But if you wanted to be an entrepreneur in healthcare, quite frankly, until about 6 years ago, we did the reverse of support you. So, like my colleague just said, I hope the technology works. So I hope now so I like metrics. I'm a surgeon, and if I'm going to say something, I like to prove to you what I can do. So these are our year 4 metrics of the Clinical Entrepreneur Program. It's like an accelerator, a workforce development program for our NHS. Now, hopefully, I'll get the pointing right. So this was year 4. Here we go. We had 513 clinicians go through the program. But now we've had over 700 go through that in our current year. Now I'm looking at these back to front, so it is a little confusing. So I would never get a job as a weatherman, let me tell you that, to start with this. So we have now, I'm just going to tell you the figures now, so we have over 300 life science companies we've created in 5 years. They've raised over £350 million between them. We've impacted over 30 million patients, and we are now responsible for creating 5% of the UK life science industry from scratch in our first 5 years. We've beaten, if you add all the startups that came out of the Ivy League universities in the United States in that time, Stanford, Harvard, all the rest, we've beat them hands down. We're in a different ballpark to them. And we did it because the NHS is the largest employer of professionals on the planet with 1.4 million employees. So that's why you should partner with us. But you shouldn't just believe my statistics. Let me show you. So you've got Ali there in the audience with you, a neurosurgeon with his NeuroNav startup, but you can hear from him directly. But here's one of our others. So this is Timper Health. What you can see up here, this is the world's leading smartphone video otoscope. They tried it in the United States, couldn't get it to work. Timper Health, go and have a look at them online. Here you can see the first production line going ahead. So this takes an operating microscope in a hospital department and disrupts that down. Here is a healthcare assistant in boots doing earwax, microsuction of earwax in a Boots hearing centre. So far, over 80,000 people have had their earwax removed in Boots hearing test centres, and NHS England and NHSX are now supporting the rollout of that across community pharmacies, starting in London, but extending beyond that. They've just raised $10 million and are expanding globally with the Boots Walgreens Alliance. So that's one. Here's number 2. Now, this is one of our testing and evaluation prototypes. You're going, hang on, that is a Red Bull Formula One car there, Tony. What's going on? Well, do you know, we have 700 amazing frontline clinicians on our program. And when the pandemic struck, I got a call from one of my colleagues at NHS England saying, Tony, it looks like we might ventilate. What are we going to do? Have you got anyone on your program that can help? Come on, it's the largest entrepreneurial training program in the world. And you know, we did. And just here, you can see the prototype of the ventilator. It didn't use any components from the standard supply chain. So young Alistair Darwood, an orthopaedic surgeon from London, I got him to pitch in front of the UK Cabinet Office. And the following weekend, £10 million was injected into this project. We took over the hangar at Red Bull's headquarters in Formula One. Isn't that the best research lab you've ever seen? I wish I had a Formula One car in my normal one, I tell you. Amazing. And 4 weeks later, we had 5,000 ventilators that had gone through the MHRA approval process, ready to roll off the production line. Now, fortunately, the lockdown worked, and we didn't need to ever make those ventilators. But the point is, we had a system in place. We had something to plan for that emergency for our nation. Amazing. But now, if you think those are great, I'm going to show you what I think is the greatest innovation of all time in healthcare. And if you think I'm wrong, I'll quit and go and get another job. So I'm setting myself up for a bit of a fall here, aren't I? So I hope you agree, or I'm going to be in trouble. So this is it. Our greatest asset in healthcare is our workforce. This is year 3 of the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme at the Royal Institution in London. You can see just here the statue of Michael Faraday. But also in that crowd, just down here at the bottom, we have Colin Melville, the medical director at the General Medical Council. We've got Professor Dame Sue Hill just up here, our chief scientist at NHS England. But look, what a diverse group of doctors, nurses, pharmacists, allied healthcare practitioners, all coming to the centre. What they're really good at is identifying the problem, and we help them refine that and then come up with the solution by teaching them commercial skills, knowledge and experience. So the last thing I want to do in this super brief talk, and I'm so sorry I'm not with you, is there's actually something I want. I wouldn't come on this talk if there wasn't something I want. I'm keen to develop relationships with Turkey. Not all the best minds sit in Britain. We've got some great ones, but it's only by working in partnership internationally. Now, we've got a session later this afternoon, about 4 o'clock or so, I think. And I want to meet people from your life science industry, people who are doing things like we're doing in the United Kingdom, in Turkey. I want to build those bridges so we can work together. And hopefully, next time I can come and be there in person. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great event, and I hope to meet some of you this afternoon at the session I'll be at. Thank you so much.
Evet. Şimdi Birleşik Krallık'ta genomik sağlık hizmetleri sistemini de Mark Bale anlatacak. Sağlık ve Sosyal Hizmetler Bakanlığı Genome Bilimi Politikası Müdür Yardımcısı. For presentation. Okay.
So this is where it's my turn to operate the clicker. So thank you. I think I have some slides. Yes, thank you. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for the invitation to speak to you about a specific piece of work that we're doing in the UK, which comes under the life sciences vision that Keenan spoke about earlier, but also very much builds on all of the themes that Toby Young spoke about on the way the NHS can innovate and work with all sorts of partners from academics and industry. So I'm going to make what is a fairly bold claim, but I think is justified, is the UK is a leader in milestones in genomics and genetics before that. We've actually identified the opportunity to build on the life sciences strengths, to build on the really close partnerships with the National Health Service, to drive forward several major groundbreaking initiatives. The first and perhaps the best known is the UK Biobank. But we also delivered a project called the 100,000 Genomes Project, which was very much aligning the National Health Service and industry and academia to deliver the world's first and largest collection of whole genome sequences connected to patients and patient data. We've built on that since then with more programs which are set out in a strategy that was published in September with a 1-year implementation plan, which will be now updating as part of our new budget setting process. So we will start to see some big initiatives moving forward very quickly, including one called Our Future Health. So these are based on how we can leverage the power of the NHS to deliver not just therapies and treatments, but also to address questions around prevention and prediction of ill health. So I think there are a number of themes on this slide that I think are really fundamental to the way we operate. In particular, not just to work with a series of connected healthcare and doctors things, but very much look at the underpinning framework we need for informatics, the framework we need particularly for patient consent and also public trust and confidence in this program, and all of those things connecting very closely into industry and opportunities for inward investment. I think we've been particularly fortunate in having in this genomics program a lot of very close support from our prime ministers and from our senior health secretaries. You may not be able to see them on this slide, but the initiative was, the 100,000 Genomes Initiative was launched by David Cameron when he was Prime Minister. Particularly close to his heart was the fact that he had experience of a child with a rare disease and wanted to see if he could improve the prospects for other families like his family. We've also benefited in big investments through partnerships with the Wellcome Trust and with a company called Illumina, who are our sequencing partner. And in the middle picture there, the previous Prime Minister, Theresa May, opened this new centre where all of the sequencing has been done. But as well as delivering this big project, we were very keen to identify the long-term opportunities. So particularly guided by a report from our previous Chief Medical Officer, Dame Sally Davis, we've actually managed to launch, as part of the NHS long-term plan, the world's first fully integrated genomic medicine service, which includes whole genome sequencing for rare conditions and rare cancers, but also integrates and improves the offer for other types of genetic and genomic tests. And this is all backed up by a company called Genomics England, which is an unusual company in that it's actually fully owned by the Department of Health, but with a strong element of business engagement. And what we sort of try to envisage here is what we call this infinity loop. So on the right, I won't try with a pointer, but on the right, at the left-hand side, we have the NHS. We have this idea of constantly improving healthcare. And then the data from those patients, when they consent and when we do deliver the bioinformatics, flows into the right-hand side of the loop, which is organised by Genomics England, but in partnership with lots of smaller and larger companies and with academics. And then we expect very quickly to see insights flowing back around the circle towards the left-hand side again to really see how we can dynamically improve the offer of diagnosis, particularly for patients with a rare disease, but also to offer them the opportunity to join clinical trials for new therapeutics and to then use the data and the insights that we have to maybe identify certain patients that will or will not benefit from certain of the new innovative medicines. As I said, we've really backed this up a lot by close engagement with the public, and it's an engagement that we've loosely called a social contract, an involving new social contract. So there are certain expectations that we think that the health service and academics owe to patients, particularly to identify opportunities for them to benefit from improved diagnosis and from clinical trials. We've also clearly heard from the public a series of red lines about things that shouldn't be done with the data. The government shouldn't use it for all sorts of non-medical purposes, immigration or forensics and so on. Industry shouldn't use it for things like insurance premiums. But we do think if we have these strong ethical and engagement frameworks, we can work very closely in partnership with patients and with the general public. And in particular, we do not give the data away. We always keep the data in what we call trusted research environments. If you want to research on the data, and that's an opportunity for experts from all around the world, especially Turkey, you have to come into our research environment through a secure process and only work on de-identified data and only take away certain summary data sets. So this is our kind of promise and our contract with participants. Just moving on to something which is obviously of concern to all of us, we were very lucky in being able to take the capacity that we had and the support from our public health agencies, academic laboratories and industry partners to really speed up the delivery of sequencing, whole genome sequencing of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And I think we were one of the early adopters of this technology through a partnership called the COVID UK Genomics Consortium, COG UK. But it's also been a partnership between all of the main agencies and funded by rapid identification of funding. All of the data that we produce goes into the global database, GISAID. I think we've deposited over 1 million sequences so far, and I think this is one of the key opportunities to identify new variants of concern, Omicron being the most recent one, but not to sort of use that to penalize countries, but to use that to rapidly identify new threats and new risks of vaccine breakthrough or enhanced infectivity. So I think just to bring us up to slightly date, so the Genomics England, which I've mentioned is a company that's delivering the informatics and the data storage, as well as the links with academia and partnerships. It set out this vision. I think we've also been able to use the capacity that Genomics England has to see if we can understand why some people suffer very severe COVID infections and why some people have mild or asymptomatic infections. By again using the capacity we had to develop the largest whole genome sequencing data set associated with COVID-19, but connecting it to all sorts of data sets which have been rapidly stood up. And I think one of the silver linings, as we'd say, of the whole COVID pandemic is understanding the opportunities to connect data sets together, to work with big trials like the recovery trial, and to share that knowledge with the other nations as quickly as we can. I think we have, as I said, a very well-developed concept of a national genome research library. We take routine consent from participants. We offer them the opportunity to have their data made available for research. It's not compulsory, but we're very pleased that 90% of patients in the new Genomic Medicine Service do take up that offer. And as I said, we do work very closely in a system that we call a secure environment, a trusted research environment. The best way we consider this is it's a bit like going to a big aquarium. You can look at the fishes, but you're not allowed to take them away with you. You can only look, you can only do your studies, and then you go home. And it's based around this concept of 5 safes: data being safe, safe settings, safe research, safe projects. So we have a big data set. As I said, it's open to all people from all over the world to actually seek permission to access the data set. I think at the last count, I'm sorry, I haven't got my glasses on, I can't read that, we have a very large number of cancers and rare diseases. We have both the patient's own germline data and also the tumor data. And this is being actively researched by all of our participants. We're very keen to work with other similar national projects and other global partners. We're collaborating with our close partners in France. We're talking to colleagues in the European Union around their big 1 million genomes project. And we're particularly close to the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health, which we fund. We have 3 new programs that Genomics England is now scoping out in more detail following our spending round. I just highlight that we have a project to see if we can apply whole genome sequencing to improve newborn diagnosis and screening. A project which may be of interest to some partners here, which is actually to improve the quality of the data set. The global genome data set is not representative of the global population. Some of our tool sets do not necessarily work well with populations participation from different countries, and we really do need to understand what the disincentives are for some people to participate in research. We also have a larger program as well around cancer, using new technologies for sequencing cancer genomes. So I think I'll just quickly go through these. What we do have to do a lot of work with before we even begin to think about rolling out whole genome sequencing for newborns is actually to understand how that would fit within existing systems, and also how participants would react to that. And similarly in data, I'll go through this very quickly, but I'm happy to talk about it later. In data, we have three main areas to look at, both improving the quantity of data, improving the tools, and improving our engagement with people. So I'll finish there, but I will be available later if you want to talk to me, and I'll also speak a little bit more about the COVID sequencing, and particularly our offer to help build capacity globally. But thank you very much.
Ve Birleşik Krallık İhracat Finansman Kurumu'nu da Türkiye, Doğu Avrupa ve Orta Asya Ülke Başkanı Sayın Özgür Kutay anlatacak. Buyurun.
Sayın Bakanım, değerli Büyükelçi ve Başkonsolos, değerli konuklar, Sağlık Bakanlığı'nın üst düzey yetkilileri, hoş geldiniz. Ben de bugün burada hepimiz bir çatı altında fiziksel olarak bulunmaktan çok mutluluk duyuyorum. İzin verirseniz sunumuma İngilizce devam edeceğim. I would like to welcome the audience on behalf of the UK Export Finance, which is the official arm of the Export Credit Agency of the UK government. We've been around over 100 years. This is actually our 102nd year. So we're set up in 1919 as the official arm that would support the UK exports in the post-war era. We had been, on the upper right-hand side, been recently valued by our customers, mostly exporters and our sort of buyers, as one of the most flexible, most innovative ECA, and the industry standard accolades up there. We provide essentially, as an export credit agency, those of you who are not very familiar, but we are a financial institution. Our role is really to support UK exports in various projects around the world. And we do that by supporting them financially as the UK government that enables the buyers to finance or to access finance in a much more meaningful way. Just to identify our position, we are a lender in the credit sense, so we provide loans. We don't provide subsidies or grants. We have, at the moment, around £4 billion of country limits for Turkey, and it's been a quite busy pipeline, busy days, and good for the country, good for both countries, and good for the business, obviously. We just signed, for those of you who read it, the biggest solar power plant in Europe that is in Turkey, that's built under the YEKA regime by Ministry of Energy and the Turkish investor. It was an $800 million transaction where we are the largest lender by $290 million up to 12.5 years. We do have a lot of projects in our pipeline. That $4 billion is quite busy to be used. Infrastructure, a couple in industrial projects, but happy to be involved in healthcare projects as well. I'm based here, so I'm based in Istanbul at the British Consulate. For those of you, who are from here, happy to catch up, later and further. Briefly, how our support works is at the top, you have a UK exporter that is trying to sell goods or services to a Turkish buyer. It could be the government, it could be a project, it could be a Turkish company. And we come in the middle, and we provide a UK government guarantee to the bank, which would finance this. So that enables the credit arbitrage where, you know, our ratings come in and get the financing either more doable because of the quantum of debt, it might be cheaper, or it might be longer repayment periods. We do have a number of products to do that, and I'll just jump into them quickly. The typical buyer credit guarantee is that we provide a loan or support a loan to the buyer, to one of the Turkish companies or the government. The standard buyer loan guarantee is that we provide financing to the exporter under, you know, the payment obligations of the buyer here. And we could do, in very rare instances, our own money. Rather than using a bank that would be the funding, we would be able to look into opportunities where we lend our own budget funds. Some of the advantages we think are relevant. Firstly, unlike some of our peers, we provide 100% unconditional guarantee. We don't provide an insurance. We're not an insurance agency. We just come in and guarantee as the UK government. That makes it extremely valuable to the financing parties. We could do up to 18 years of repayment. Mostly the off-the-shelf products are 10 years, but we could do up to 18 years in certain industries. For the service we provide, we collect a premium upfront, and it's a function of how the OECD countries, including Turkey, agree on those premiums based on risk ratings and the tenor. And the good news is it is once, it's not an interest rate, so it's not going to be paid every year. It's collected once and upfront, and it's financeable. So we could add that on top of the loan, and you can pay it in 10 plus years. We do work with a number of international financial institutions, banks or non-banks, about 70, that could provide this service under our guarantee. We could support the local expenditures in a project as well. So it's not only the equipment or the service, but to the extent that OECD allows, it is possible for us to finance local purchases and expenditures. We're known to be one of the most flexible ECAs by the banks, so we go with the customer needs. We understand them. We could do capital market support, bank market support. We could do Turkish lira or hard currency. We could do direct loans, fixed rate, or support floating rate international loans. We require a minimum of 20% UK content. So our loan has to have a minimum 20% of UK goods and services. This is not a target, and it shouldn't be misleading. I should say, on average, we achieve 40% on the entire book, on the entire portfolio, but happy to consider transactions as low as 20%, which really separates us from the rest of the crowd, all the other ECAs. There's no one else that would go that low in the content requirement. We do provide services like this, where the UK businesses can sit with the buyers here and the project owners, and we call it a supplier fair, and it's essentially a matchmaking service. We could finance goods. These are capital goods, mostly medical equipment, and some supplies. We could finance services, which is very relevant. I mean, you heard from my fellow panelists that the UK offers in healthcare and life sciences, basically. So it can be anything scientific, any know-how, any license transfer, any services, development. It could also be financed. It doesn't have to be tangible, and we can do intangibles. It can be licenses, intellectual property rights, everything that you can imagine. The supplier fair model I briefly touched upon, so I'm going to move on, cognizant of the time, and I'm going to leave you with quick 3 case studies. The first one comes from Angola. This is a country which we did not have any exposure until 4 years ago. It's a tough market. It's a CCC rated country, so at the very bottom of the food chain in terms of the international credit. We were able to finance 3 hospitals totaling 380 million euros for the government there. And a UK-based company was the contractor building those hospitals. They also purchased the medical equipment. So the decision maker for the procurement came from the contractor. just like the PPP hospitals here. The next one, I should say, quickly, was in Ghana. This was slightly smaller. It was by Vamet. I don't know if they're in the room today, from UK. And that was 40 million euros, again, for the Ministry of Health in Ghana. The borrower was Ministry of Finance, as usual. And we were actually doing something creative here. Because the consortium had an Austrian partner, we provided our reinsurance to the Austrian ECA, the OEKB. So it is possible that if we're not big, in a transaction, we could still do partially by supporting another fellow OECD country export credit agency. The last example is on two companies, two exporters, Ellipse and Tilium. For them, it was their first such experience with us, so we're looking to develop that relationship. The transaction was again in Ghana for the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning. And the content is, at the very bottom line, you see services, including construction and civil works and specialist medical equipment. So it had all bits of the stuff that I mentioned. My last page, before getting too much time, how do we make it happen, right? Because we all talk about these great things, great projects, but what do you need exactly to be ready to talk to us for the financing? These are the things that I could mention. We need something on a project scope. We love speaking on topics that we are mutually thinking that are mutually beneficial, but we would like to see a project scope. So how much is it? Where is it built? What it is exactly? Permits, everything. So project scope is important. Next one, we need to know the value. How much is it? We financiers, mostly former bankers, would like to see things in numbers, in figures. So how much is it? How many dollars, euros, Turkish liras? The currency. Which currency is the contract? Is it local currency or is it a hard currency, international one? Who are the major stakeholders? If it's a project finance, who is the equity provider? Who are they? How would they provide equity? What is their plan to raise equity or debt? So we would like to see that detail. If it's a government purchase, it's slightly easier. So because our capability is available for the Turkish government, of course, and we don't ask those questions as the government will be our counterparty. We need to know how long. Is it 2 years? Is it 14 years? 12 years. What is the construction period? We need those details to move on. We need to know who is borrowing. Very simple question. Who is the borrower? So we talk about projects to develop, but who are we actually lending to? Is it the Turkish government? Which entity? Is there a guarantee? Is it a private sector entity? Is it a private hospital? How are they going to borrow and guarantee through their corporate office? We need an indicative financing plan. We need, obviously, most important bit of it, the UK content. What is actually being bought from UK? That will be the determinant, the main determinant of our exposure in that project. And obviously, as any project, we would need an indicative timeline when things will start falling due. With that, thank you very much. My pleasure to be here today and meet all of you. Thank you.
Çok teşekkür ediyoruz Sayın Kutay'a. Şimdi öğle arasına geçeceğiz. Öğle yemeğinin ardından tekrar burada buluşalım diğer panelimizde. Öğle yemeğinden sonraki panel dijital sağlıkta Birleşik Krallık Türkiye İşbirliği başlığını taşıyor. Görüşmek üzere.